There are moments during a livestream when everything seems completely ordinary, when the lights are perfect, the setting is elegant, the conversation moves naturally, and yet one small remark suddenly changes the entire atmosphere. That is exactly the kind of moment surrounding Zhang Linghe during the BVLGARI livestream described in this story, because what appeared to be a polished luxury brand appearance quickly became something far more intriguing for fans who were watching every expression, every pause, and every carefully chosen word. The moment wedding plans entered the conversation, even indirectly, the mood seemed to shift. Suddenly, viewers were no longer simply watching a celebrity enjoying a high-profile livestream. They were watching someone who has reached a stage in life where questions about the future naturally carry a different kind of weight. And that is where the mystery begins, because there is a huge difference between someone openly announcing a wedding and someone simply making a comment that causes thousands of people to wonder whether there is something more behind it. Nothing about a hint should automatically be treated as confirmation, and there is no reason to turn speculation into fact, but sometimes the smallest suggestion can create the biggest wave of curiosity. For Zhang Linghe, whose public image has often been surrounded by intense attention from fans, even an ordinary conversation about relationships, family, or the future can become something people analyze long after the livestream ends. The setting itself made the moment feel even more significant. BVLGARI represents a world built around elegance, craftsmanship, timeless design, and the symbolism of important moments in life. Jewelry has always carried emotional meanings far beyond its physical appearance. A ring can represent commitment, a necklace can become a memory, and a piece of fine jewelry can be connected to celebrations that people remember for years. So when a conversation in such an atmosphere touches upon marriage or future plans, it is almost impossible for viewers not to notice the connection. The livestream may have been centered around fashion, luxury, personal taste, or the event itself, but fans were naturally listening for something deeper. They wanted to understand what Zhang Linghe might be thinking about his future. They wanted to know whether his words were simply casual conversation or whether there was a personal feeling hidden somewhere beneath them. And that uncertainty became the most fascinating part of the entire moment. Because when a public figure is constantly surrounded by cameras, there are very few opportunities for genuine spontaneity. Every expression can become a screenshot, every sentence can become a headline, and every pause can be replayed thousands of times. That reality makes even a seemingly simple remark feel much bigger than it might have been in a private conversation. What made fans react so strongly was not necessarily a direct declaration, but the possibility that Zhang Linghe might have allowed viewers to glimpse a more personal side of his thinking. There is something emotionally powerful about hearing a young celebrity speak about the future in a way that suggests maturity, responsibility, or an awareness of how quickly life changes. Careers move at incredible speed. Projects come and go. New characters appear, new stages arrive, new red carpets bring new photographs, and audiences constantly discover different sides of the same person. Yet behind all of that public movement is an individual who is also growing, changing, and thinking about what life might look like beyond the next drama or commercial appearance. That is why conversations about marriage can feel so different. They are not simply about romance. They are about time, priorities, family, companionship, trust, and the kind of life someone hopes to build when the cameras are no longer watching. If Zhang Linghe was truly hinting at his future plans, even without giving any specific details, fans may have felt that they were seeing a glimpse of the person behind the celebrity image. And then came the reaction that only made the mystery stronger. Fans began wondering what exactly he meant, whether the wording had been misunderstood, whether he was simply answering a hypothetical question, or whether there was a deeper intention behind the way he spoke. This is where online fandom becomes incredibly powerful. One small moment can travel across platforms within minutes. A short clip can be replayed again and again. A facial expression can suddenly become the center of discussion. People begin comparing translations, examining context, remembering previous interviews, and asking whether this new comment fits with anything Zhang Linghe has said before. Some viewers may interpret the moment as a playful response, while others may see it as a sign that his thoughts about the future have become more serious. Neither interpretation should automatically be presented as truth without direct confirmation, but the emotional reaction itself tells us something important. Fans care deeply about the person they have followed, and when that person appears to be entering a new chapter of life, the audience naturally feels a mixture of excitement, surprise, curiosity, and even a little disbelief. Imagine the atmosphere for a moment. The live stream is moving smoothly. The luxury setting creates a calm and sophisticated mood. Zhang appears composed, confident, and comfortable in front of the camera. The conversation continues, and then something changes. Perhaps it is only a few words. Perhaps it is an answer that seems more thoughtful than expected. Perhaps it is the way he pauses before speaking, or the subtle expression that appears on his face when the topic turns toward the future. To someone watching casually, it might seem like nothing extraordinary. But to a fan who has followed countless interviews, live streams, dramas, events, and public appearances, small changes can feel enormous. They know the familiar rhythm of his public personality. They recognize the moments when he is joking, the moments when he is being careful, and the moments when he appears genuinely reflective. That is why this particular moment became so fascinating. The question was no longer simply what he said. The question became what he might have been thinking while saying it. There is also something deeply human about the idea of someone publicly successful quietly thinking about a private future. Zhang Linghe's career places him under a level of attention that most people will never experience. His work is discussed across social media, his appearances are photographed, and his personal life naturally attracts curiosity. Yet marriage is one of those subjects that cannot be completely understood from the outside. A wedding is not simply a glamorous event. Behind the photographs and beautiful clothing are decisions, relationships, families, responsibilities, and emotions that belong to the people involved. That is why any discussion about wedding plans should be treated carefully. Fans can celebrate a possibility without assuming that a private decision has already been made. They can enjoy the excitement without turning speculation into certainty. And perhaps that is the most respectful way to understand the moment, not as proof of a secret wedding, but as an intriguing glimpse into a conversation that made people wonder whether Zhang Ling is beginning to think differently about the future. For many fans, the surprise may also come from how quickly a familiar celebrity image can suddenly feel more mature. People often remember stars through the characters they play. Zhang Ling has portrayed many different personalities on screen, and audiences naturally develop emotional connections to those fictional worlds. But an actor's real life is separate from those stories. The person behind the character continues growing even when the drama ends. The audience may still associate him with particular roles, particular scenes, particular costumes, or particular moments, while he himself is moving forward into new experiences. A conversation about marriage can therefore feel like a reminder that time does not stand still. The actor fans discovered years ago is not necessarily the same person standing in front of them today. He may have different priorities, different ambitions, different hopes, and a completely different understanding of what happiness means. And perhaps that is why the wedding question created such an emotional reaction. Fans were not simply reacting to the word marriage. They were reacting to the idea of change. Change is exciting, but it can also be emotional. When someone becomes important to an audience, fans become accustomed to seeing them in a particular way. They follow their projects, celebrate their achievements, and watch them move from one milestone to another. Then suddenly, the possibility of a major personal milestone appears, and the audience realizes that another chapter may be approaching. It can feel almost like watching someone you have followed for years step toward a door that leads somewhere unknown. You can be happy for them while still feeling surprised. You can support them while still asking questions. You can feel excited about what might happen without knowing what will actually happen. The BVLGARI connection adds another layer because luxury jewelry is so closely associated with milestones. Whether it is an engagement, a wedding anniversary, a family celebration, or another unforgettable occasion, jewelry often becomes a physical symbol of memory. That symbolism can make fans more sensitive to anything involving marriage during a luxury jewelry livestream. Yet it is important not to confuse atmosphere with evidence. A brand event does not automatically mean a personal announcement. A discussion about jewelry does not automatically mean a ring is involved. And a comment about the future does not automatically mean a wedding date exists. The fascination comes precisely from the uncertainty. There is something captivating about not knowing whether a moment was simply spontaneous or whether it carried a more personal meaning. As the conversation spread among fans, emotions naturally moved in different directions. Some people may have reacted with shock, wondering how quickly the subject appeared. Others may have responded with excitement, imagining Zhang entering a new stage of adulthood. Some may have laughed at the sudden intensity of the online reaction, while others carefully searched for the original context before forming an opinion. This variety of reactions is part of what makes celebrity culture so fascinating and complicated. A single sentence can mean something different to thousands of people. One viewer may hear a casual comment. Another may hear a meaningful hint. Someone else may simply appreciate the honesty of discussing the future. The important thing is to remember that interpretation is not confirmation. What remains particularly compelling is the possibility that Zhang himself understands how much attention his words receive. He knows that anything personal can become a major topic almost instantly. That means speaking about marriage publicly, even hypothetically, requires a certain level of awareness. Perhaps he was simply being sincere in the moment. Perhaps he was answering naturally without imagining how quickly the conversation would spread. Or perhaps he intentionally allowed fans to see a slightly more mature side of his thinking. Without a direct statement, no one outside the conversation can know for certain. And that uncertainty is exactly what keeps people talking. There is also a quieter emotional story underneath the excitement. Behind every celebrity headline is a person who has to navigate the complicated boundary between public life and private life. Fans naturally want to know more because they feel connected to the person they support. But genuine support also means understanding that some parts of life belong to the individual. A future wedding, if one ever happens, would ultimately be Zhang Linghe's personal milestone, not a public obligation. Fans can celebrate when the time is right, but they do not need to know every private detail before that moment arrives. Perhaps the most meaningful reaction is not demanding answers, but simply appreciating the possibility that he is thinking about happiness in his own way. And there is something almost cinematic about the idea of that moment taking place beneath the lights of a luxury live stream. The cameras are focused on him, the jewelry catches the light, the environment feels polished and elegant, and yet the subject suddenly becomes deeply personal. The contrast is powerful. Everything around him represents glamour and public visibility, while the question of marriage represents intimacy and private emotion. It is almost as though two different worlds briefly touched each other. The world everyone can see and the future only he can truly know. That contrast may explain why the moment stayed with fans. People are used to seeing celebrities at their most polished. They see the perfect outfits, carefully prepared appearances, dramatic photographs, and professional interviews. But moments involving the future can reveal something different. They remind viewers that celebrities experience uncertainty too. They have dreams, fears, hopes, relationships, and questions about where life is heading. The possibility of marriage makes that humanity especially visible because it is such a universal subject. Almost everyone understands the idea of wondering what the future will bring, even if everyone's path is completely different. For Zhang, the most interesting question may therefore not be whether a wedding is actually approaching, but what this moment says about the person he is becoming. Is he thinking more seriously about long-term happiness? Is he simply comfortable enough with his life to discuss the future? Has the experience of growing through a demanding career changed his priorities? These questions are far more meaningful than trying to guess a secret date or identify a person who has never been publicly confirmed. The future belongs to him, and whatever choices he makes will eventually become clear in their own time. Meanwhile, fans are left with that unforgettable feeling that something unexpected may have been revealed, even if the full story remains unknown. The internet thrives on mysteries like this. A small moment becomes a conversation. The conversation becomes theories. Theories become emotional debates. And suddenly an ordinary livestream becomes a moment that thousands of people remember. But beneath all the excitement, there is a simple truth. Sometimes the most powerful celebrity moments are not the ones with dramatic announcements. They are the quiet moments when someone says something that makes everyone stop and wonder. Perhaps that is what happened here. Perhaps the wedding discussion was simply a fleeting part of a larger conversation. Perhaps it was a playful answer that fans interpreted more seriously than intended. Or perhaps it was a genuine glimpse into a future Zhang Ling has begun considering for himself. At this moment, without a clear and direct confirmation, the responsible conclusion is to leave that question open. The mystery is still a mystery. And maybe that is what makes the moment so captivating. Because somewhere between the sparkling BVLGARI setting, the calm confidence of the livestream, the sudden appearance of a deeply personal subject, and the explosive reaction from fans, something more meaningful emerged. It was a reminder that behind the actor, the fashion figure, and the public personality is a young man whose life continues beyond the screen. His career may be visible to millions, but his dreams for the future remain his own. And if one day he truly chooses to announce a wedding, that announcement will carry far more meaning because it comes directly from him, at the moment he is ready to share it. Until then, fans are left with a moment to remember and a question that refuses to disappear. Was it simply an innocent conversation about the future, or did Zhang Ling unintentionally reveal that his thoughts are moving toward a new chapter? No one outside that moment can answer with certainty. But perhaps the beauty lies in allowing the mystery to remain a mystery, appreciating the excitement without turning speculation into fact, and recognizing that some of life's biggest moments begin quietly, long before the world knows what they will become. And maybe, years from now, fans will look back at this livestream and remember how everything started with only a few carefully noticed words. Maybe they will laugh at how quickly the internet reacted. Maybe they will realize that the comment meant something completely different from what everyone imagined. Or perhaps, if Zhang Ling eventually chooses to share a genuine wedding announcement, this will be remembered as one of those early moments that made fans wonder whether a new chapter was already taking shape. Until that day, the lights will fade, the livestream will end, the jewelry will disappear from the screen, and the excitement will gradually settle. But the question will remain suspended in the minds of everyone who watched. Was Zhang Ling simply talking about the future, or did fans catch a tiny glimpse of the future he has been quietly imagining for himself?